It's not just Egypt and Jordan. Yemen and Tunisia have also had mass protests. They're all autocratic, majority Muslim nations. But they're not all oil states, and Tunisia is mostly secular. So what else do these countries have in common? One thing is high food prices, a factor in how all the riots really started and how all of it started. And it's not a coincidence that all of them have high food prices right now. Food prices have skyrocketed around the world, and a big reason for that is Wall Street. It started in 1991 with surprise, Goldman Sachs. Before then, Wall Street speculators played only a minor role in food prices. The way it worked, food companies and their suppliers, America's farmers, wanted to keep their business stable, even if prices spiked for wheat, corn, or other agricultural commodities. So they'd hedge their bets, signing contracts, futures, to lock in prices for some point in the future. Speculators helped, putting enough money in the system to keep things liquid. After the Depression, FDR saw that speculators could drive up the price of wheat, corn, whatever, by betting on commodity futures, the way Wall Street later bet on dot-coms. Distorting food prices like that could destroy the very stability future contracts were created to provide. So FDR signed into law what are called position limits. Limits on how much of that total betting could be done by Wall Street. And what do you know? It worked. For decades, the price of wheat was driven by fundamentals, like the weather. And Wall Street couldn't stand it. In 1991, Goldman Sachs asked the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, to give them a waiver on those position limits so they could bet as much as they wanted. A CFTC appointee for the first President Bush said sure. More than a dozen other firms followed suit. Goldman Sachs even created commodities indexes to simplify the betting and goose casual investors into the casino. Again, Wall Street followed suit. Remember the real estate bubble? Wall Street wanted to hedge all those bets it made on mortgages, so they ramped up their bets on commodities. And when Wall Street started losing money on subprimes, they betted on commodities instead. By 2008, Wall Street had 5 times more futures contracts in commodities than it did in 2002. Commodity indexes held about $13 billion in 2003. By 2008, it was over $250 billion. That's how we got the oil bubble. Add record high gas prices to the cost of shipping food, plus speculators looking for another bubble, and you get a food bubble. By 2008, the UN estimates speculators held 65% of corn futures contracts, 68% of soybean, 80% of wheat. By mid-2008, the IMF food price index jumped more than 80% in just a year and a half before. It was the first time in history the proportion of people going hungry worldwide went up. The number of chronically malnourished people rose by 75 million in 2007, 40 million in 2008. That's why Egypt had riots back in 2008. Along with 30 other countries, Italian moms marched against the price of pasta. Wall Street speculators admitted they were doing it. In 2006, Merrill Lynch said speculation accounted for 50% of the price of commodities. Half the price. In 2008, a Goldman Sachs research paper said, quote, without question, increased fund flow into commodities has boosted prices. 2009, even Republican Senator Tom Coburn admits the speculation, quote, helped to inflate futures prices and thereby disconnect futures from cash prices, impairing farmers and grain elevator operators' ability to hedge price risk. Got that? Even Coburn said there was so much Wall Street money distorting prices that farmers and other guys who actually need commodity futures couldn't use them to keep their companies stable anymore. We don't notice price hikes so much because most of our food prices come from marketing and packaging. But in the developing world, the price of food is everything. And what country imports more wheat than any other? Egypt, where the price of wheat rose 70% last year. Last summer, Goldman called a report on the role of speculation in food prices, quote, misleading, and blamed other factors. A lot of reports mention that Russia cut off its wheat supply last year. What they don't tell you is why, because futures traders asked them to. Let's bring in my colleague Dylan Radigan. He's got his own show right here on MSNBC weekdays at 4 o'clock, formerly of CNBC and Bloomberg News. Thanks for coming in tonight, Dylan. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
I know that you have talked a lot about speculators and what has happened on Wall Street, but this has really been a tsunami in the food world, which has caused a lot of havoc around the world. Tell us, these price hikes, strictly due to speculation?
No. First off, I want to compliment you on your reporting, Ed. I think you just did an exquisitely good job of describing the contributing factor that financial speculation has been in the spike, not just in food prices, but also in energy prices. Unfortunately, there are other factors also in the financial community that are even more sinister. There's a mathematical certainty, Ed, that is this. All the paper currency in the world, all the money, all the paper, must by definition equal the value of all the commodities, because a commodity is equal to what the value of the currencies are in the world. In order to cover up the massive bank theft that's been perpetrated in this country in 2008, the Federal Reserve, under the guidance of first President Bush and now President Obama, as you know, Ed, has been printing trillions of new dollars. And people, smart financial players, have been concerned about the debasing effect that has on our currency. Well, as a direct result of the Federal Reserve's money printing to cover up our bank theft, that has been an additional factor in causing commodity prices to explode higher. So in addition to the speculative aspects that you described so well, a byproduct of the Federal Reserve and the White House and the Treasury's decision to go with money printing as a way to prop up our economy is driving food prices higher.
You know, it's just an amazing domino effect. There's no doubt. But what exactly are these commodity markets supposed to be accomplishing?
Well, very simply, they're supposed to create price stability, as you described in your piece. There is a very, very valid role for a futures market in commodities, both for food consumers who would like to be able to have a stable price for bread, a stable price for milk, a stable price for cheese and meat, not just here, but around the world, couscous, rice, tortillas, pasta, I don't care where you live. And if you're a farmer, you want to know that you can lock in a price on your farm in this country or any other for that price. The position limits, which you referenced, are critical in that they represent a limit as to how much grain could potentially actually exist.
Yeah.
The elimination of the position limit makes it such that you can suddenly buy more grain than exists on the entire planet, because now you're just speculating on the price or potential price and creating all the price inflation you described so well.
High prices, rural America does well. That ag dollar turns 7 times on Main Street. So America is loving this stuff as far as the ag economy is concerned. Then you take a look at the construction and the manufacturing of all the big equipment that goes with it. But somebody pays a price down the line. And in this case, it is people of these countries that are run by dictators that can't provide for their people. There's the snowball effect.
Well, yeah, I would say it's really the poorest billion, whether it's the poor in the Middle East, the poor in Asia, or the poor in Louisiana and Arkansas. Those are the only people who suffer from the financial shenanigans perpetrated at the highest levels of our government and our financial institutions. What's really struck me about this event in Egypt, Ed, is that for all of our carrying on about the spread of democracy through military assault and the death of our own soldiers and Iraqi civilians, all you had to do was double the price of grain in the Middle East from your trading floor at Goldman Sachs to receive the democratic revolution we claim to be in favor of with our military the past 10 years.
Dylan Radigan, host of his own show, weekdays at 4 here on MSNBC, and you're going to be covering this story on your show tomorrow. And I appreciate that. It is the story right now.
That's it.
On the face of this earth. Dylan, thanks so much. I appreciate it.